Hi guys, Tech here, and I wanted to go over EA Champion today, some updates to our path of building, as well as a little bit of changes as far as the mastery is concerned, and kind of how we are going to balance not having that 25% that we got from determination and grace, as well as making our gearing even easier, which is crazy. But anyway, let's dive right in. So the biggest change is that we no longer have the 25% reservation to determination and grace. Now instead, what we have mana reservation efficiency nodes, which basically we can get for 3 points off of Dynamo, which is right after on the Scion life wheel. Right after that, there's basically 2 mana nodes and then the mastery that we can get, which should get us pretty close. However, for most people, you're just going to run in line anyway. And so it's perfectly fine. And as far as the gearing and the damage and all that, that stays basically the same. I did create a bow crafting section from the detailed gearing to make it a little bit easier. Again, before you dive into this build, you do really need to read the notes, because you can screw everything up pretty easily if you don't know what to look for and you're just kind of mindlessly going at it. Because of that, we've also added a slight change. One of the things that I noticed, and even you can see me using in this video, is Flame Dash. And Flame Dash is great. The problem with Flame Dash is Flame Dash technically hits for fire, which is bad. So I have updated the path of building to use Frost Blink, because not only does it hit with cold, but it leaves a cold trail behind. So that gives us potentially more hits with the cold elements, which we definitely want, as that just triggers our equilibrium, elemental equilibrium, which means we're getting more damage out. Another thing that is often messed up with this kind of a build is, especially early on, you really want to prioritize attack speed on your bow. If you don't have high attack speed on your bow, something like a Quill Rain, it's going to feel really awful, and you're gonna think that your damage is horrible and it's just not feeling great. Especially if you're playing in Trade League, this should be your first purchase. Your second purchase should be your belt, and then your third purchase should probably be Rain of Splinters. And then that's kind of it for uniques for quite a while. After that, basically most of your money for gearing and things like that will probably likely be going armor pieces. And I mean, a skirmish is nice too, but skirmish is more of a min-maxer for your DPS, as it gives you an extra totem compared to the raw damage you can get from some of the other bows. However, I just prefer the skirmish personally. Like, certain things are just not worth the amount of increase that you're getting for the cost differential. And I feel like the belt and the quiver, specifically on this build, are in that boat. I would much rather have a second bow crafted than to not have than to have like a super min-maxed quiver, for instance. So if you're going to spend money, spend it on crafting your bows. It doesn't hurt to have like 3 or 4 short bows that you're working on and essence spamming them. And I cover exactly how to do that in the path building notes. So read those if you have questions. If those don't answer your questions, feel free to ask. I'm always happy to help. But let's get into the path building changes. All right, so to go over how I cover path of building, on the bottom left here, you'll notice that there is a little drop down. This is where you can select your different skill trees. So it starts out at 1 to 20 points, and then it goes up from there. I do have unique jewel placement. That is if you get the 2 like very late game unique jewels, kind of how to manipulate your tree to make them work to your advantage. So that'll be covered in this because you path a little bit different. But otherwise, just pick where you're at and you can go from there to mirror. As far as the skill sets, I have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then a clear speed, a single target build, and exactly how I had it set up in Calandra. You can level this, as you can see, one of two ways. So I have it kind of basic. It gives you an idea of kind of what to do as far as however you'd prefer to level. I personally level bows, but you're more than welcome to level melee. Then in Act 2, same thing. Then in Act 3 is when we shake everything up and we go to Explosive Arrow. Right off the bat, then we have a Quality of Life setup, our Aura setup, and our Utility setup. And then after that, the reason that there's nothing after Act 3 and it just goes straight into the end game builds is because from Act 4 on, you have access to every single one of these. So all you have to do is, these are kind of in order. The only one that's a little bit different than that is the Arcanist brand. Really, you're going to run Stolen Golem and Life Tap until you can run Arcanist brand and Flame Surge, because it's really not worth running these Arcanist brand with, not really worth it. So these are kind of in order of importance. If you don't have Empower, just use elemental damage with attacks. It's perfectly fine. It will get the job done. And it's actually better early. Empower scales much better later as you get a better bow and you get more gem levels that way. That's when Empower really takes over. But until then, just use elemental damage with attacks. I do recommend trying to get a setup where you can get both bows. But before you get that, you can pick either single or clear. Both will be fine. They will also have perspective strengths and weaknesses. If you're struggling with boss damage, try the single target setup. If you're struggling with clear speed, try the clear speed setup. Another thing to note is the single target does get better with the new masteries. So once we get burning enemies explode, dealing 1/10 of their maximum life as fire damage on a 3% chance. And that may not seem like a lot, but that's going to really help your clear speed. So if you are struggling with clearing, you can always come and get this a little bit early. Just know it's going to set you back. I wouldn't get this before you get Ancestral Bond. I want to be clear about that. But if you're struggling with clearing, and you don't have like random splinters or any of the stuff that's going to help you there, you can absolutely come in here and grab this Fire Mastery, and that should help with your clearing. Quality of life stuff. You'll notice Frost Blinks on here now instead of Flame Dash. Again, I kind of already covered it, but it's just cold, which is just better than having something that's fire-based. And then our Aura setup, if you don't have it in line, I do kind of cover that in the notes. But basically what you're going to do is grab this Mana Node, Dynamo, and then get this increased mana reservation efficiency of skills. So we'll come and grab these three until you have an Empower. And then once you have an Empower, you can spec out of them. As far as the notes, so this verse section, this section right here, make sure to read. Please read this if you're going to play the build. I know it's a lot of words, but please read over it. It's extremely important because this tells you the things that will screw up the build and make it where you're not doing the correct amount of damage. If your damage is bad or you're struggling, you didn't read this. As far as the ore options, I go through basically everything, every different way that you can do it. The bow attack speed, breakpoints, this is more for high end. You don't really need to know this, but you can import this into Path of Building and look at your attack cast rate and see where you are. But this is where you get the most optimal damage. Then we go into detailed gearing. Then we go into bow crafting and exactly how to do that step by step. Like what exactly you need. This is the minimums you should be targeting for either bow. You know, we talk about the Quill Rain. Basically, these are where you can farm the cards at. You can also just buy the 6-link short bows or buy the Porcupine cards, but you can farm it yourself. It's fairly easy to farm. It walks you through how to color it, walks you through how to set up your flask. For the unique items, Quill Rain should definitely be your first purchase of the league if you're playing in Trade League. If you aren't playing on Trade League, this probably won't be your first act. If you aren't playing in Trade League, probably the first thing you're going to get is a Rain of Splinters. But this is an order for Trade League where you actually are making decisions on when you are going to get something specifically. So Quill Rain first, just because the attack speed is huge and it's going to significantly increase your damage overall throughout the entire thing. The Dawn is fairly inexpensive early on and is a super end game belt. If it is expensive day one, just wait. It's very common, it will fall off in price. Rain of Splinters is easily targetable. You just vol Crimson Jewels until you get it, or you can purchase one. Again, it's going to be very common. So if it's expensive, just wait or keep voling. Skirmish is, again, a very cheap item. If it's expensive early, just wait. It will fall. Then the Forbidden Flesh and Flame, I kind of go over prices there. Kind of the important thing to know is Worthy Foe is typically very, very cheap, and the other options aren't as cheap. So it is normally beneficial to unallocate Worthy Foe and buy the jewel, and then you can just allocate First to Strike, Last to Fall. Or if you want to go with one of the other more expensive options from one of the other trees, you can absolutely do that. Just know that if you go with one of those, you want to allocate Worthy Foe because it's a little bit better than First to Strike, Last to Fall. Then the last upgrades, as far as unique items are concerned, should be Impossible Escape, allocating Imbalanced Guard, and Unnatural Instincts. As far as how these work, I actually did make a unique jewel placement tree so you can kind of see exactly what to do with them. This is the Imbalancing Guard, so what it does is allows you to allocate nodes next to it, which gives us Prismatic Skin, Eagle Eye, Soul of Steel, Kinetic Impacts, and Fending. You can also select anything before it if you choose. So like if you need just a little bit more armor and elemental resistance, you can grab these two guys. If you want that extra lightning res, you can grab that one. If you want more two-handed melee damage, which you shouldn't want because that does nothing for us. If you want more knockback distance, more knockback chance, you can pick that up if you want to. I would either allocate it this way or this way personally, but that's me. Then for Unnatural Instinct, what this does is it turns off Avatar of the Hunt, and it would also turn off Gladiator's Perseverance. And what it does is basically allocates all the small passives and gives it to us without having to spend any points, which is really, really handy because this is a lot of damage, some leech, as well as some speed and phasing. So all these things are very, very good, and we don't have to spend skill points to get them, which frees up skill points for other areas like Imbalancing Guard. You can do this either or. You don't have to get these, but they are very nice, like high-end, later in the league investment options. Then, as far as the Flasks are concerned, this walks you through how to get Flasks. I do Flasks slightly differently than some of the other creators. I basically tell you what suffixes you want, and then I give you some combinations as far as what you want it to be. And you can change those if you want to, but I just give you some targeted suffixes. Then frequently asked questions, and then if you've read over this, please read over this first. But if you've read over this and you still have questions, feel free to ask in the comment section down below, and I'm happy to help you out. And I hope you're excited to play Path of Exile Crucible League as I am. Till then, stay sane, Exiles.